All right, Jordan.
Jordan.
What's up, bro? To commemorate this episode, we're going to have you take a look at this gin. And
Tell us what you think, man.
Well, I've never been one to sit there and take shots of gin, so I don't know. If you're into, if you're into losing your pants and forgetting how you got where you were when you woke up in the morning.
Wake up with your shirt on your pants on your shirt.
But I do love this packaging.
It's a beautiful bottle. That's why I think that's why I bought it. I was looking for gin, but then that bottle made me realize. And the guy at the liquor store that I go to, he's there every day. So I think he's a good gauge of what's good or not.
Yes, the gin is ginning. It's definitely.
let me get a little whiff of the gin. A little whiff of the gin. I've only had Tanqueray and Bombay Sapphire.
Yeah,
right. I've had those. Also, some Seagrams.
Seagrams.
Bombay.
Seagrams.
Yeah, definitely.
This one's like Bombay.
For sure.
That is a very flowery liquor.
It's herbal. It's extremely herbal, and I'm not too partial to it because of that. I just haven't, because you like mixed drinks with it. I guess I haven't had the right mixed drink with it as of yet.
But back in like 2010, Wiz Khalifa was drinking that Bombay straight out the bottle, boy.
That's what made us. We were like, oh man, this must be awesome. When we drank that, we were like, what is this? It's disgusting.
It was gross, but it gets you like, it doesn't like fuck me up where I'm like, like goofy as fuck. I'm just like, I don't know. Gin gets me good drunk. I'm not gonna lie.
It twists me because it's so like herbal that I feel like it's like fuming in my body. Like I feel it's like vaporizing. It's so aromatic.
It's extra vapory.
Yeah, dude.
All right, well, let's stop talking about it and be about it real quick. A couple shots here.
Yes, sir.
This is for the pod. I feel like a pirate.
With what, this awkward shaped bottle?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
These are big shots. Sorry, guys. Here you go, Jordan.
It's not that big, bro. Big is to the rim. We're going to have to be careful bringing it to my mouth so I don't spill it on my shirt.
Right?
I would die. I'd probably throw up if I took a shot that big.
When I was young, I thought that was how the shots were supposed to be.
Huh? What'd you say?
I said when I was young, I thought that's how the shots were supposed to be. I thought
yeah, same, right?
Way up.
Maybe that's how they put it in the movies or something.
Yeah, probably.
Or maybe because when we drink juice, we always like, I want the most juice possible, right? You just fill it all the way up.
And spill half of it on the way.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Here we go.
To the first episode.
Whew.
Very vapory, yes. Flowers all over.
Tastes like orange peels and pledge.
For real.
Jeez.
You said orange peels and pledge, baby. Tastes good though. I like it.
Yeah, decent.
Well, I'm glad you got that shirt out, bro. So what's up with that? It's a fucking pufferfish? What's it say around that? I can't read it.
Yeah. Right so it says, people that say they hate people are the people that they say they hate.
Hell yeah.
That's deep.
I like that.
Yeah, that's actually like something that I came up with like a few years ago, and it's just like, because I was on Facebook seeing, just people, you know how people always say I hate people, blah blah blah. It's like, you are those people though. Like every time that I seen somebody post something like that, I'm like, you're that person though. You are, and I've been that person too. I'm big enough to admit that.
Yeah.
And when you realize that, a lot of the reason, and that's something that psychologists will tell us, is that a lot of the reasons that we find disdain or contempt for other people is because of reflections of negative qualities that we see in ourselves in the first place. So this is that sentiment boiled down to this little fancy little quote here. And I got this pufferfish actually this is a public domain image. So there are all kind of badass cool images like this
really cool.
that are free online. And I did some editing, like it was full color and everything. I made it like black and white and all that and stuff. But I mean, yeah, so just because I love to repurpose any type of, just like cool images and stuff like that. Like you'd be surprised what you can find if you just look up public domain art or images and stuff like that. Yeah. Plenty of stuff to come up with. And this shirt is actually one that I actually had manufactured for me. Oh, little one's underneath of me. I just got it back to it, so I'm going to stand up real quick. And it's actually like the logo that I'm working with thus far for the project.
Very nice. So, why'd you pick the pufferfish? Is it just the coolest thing you saw on there? Or is there any significance to the pufferfish?
I wouldn't say that it was the coolest thing to it, but I thought that there was a metaphorical significance to the pufferfish not only this specific image of the pufferfish, how like standoffish and like crazy, you know what I'm saying? And like wild
I
it
was
looks.
thinking maybe like, a hateful person. Maybe the pufferfish could be that hateful person.
It's like building that exactly that toxic vibe around you in a way. And, I always like try and do that with my clothes and my ideas to my art, is add that extra little dimension of like why I chose to do something like that. So yeah, the reason that I chose the pufferfish, and of course it's not an image that I created specifically, but when I saw that image, I was like,
it fits.
That will go with the theme of the shirt.
So you got your what's the name of your brand?
And I don't really call it a brand just yet because it's not something that I'm doing. Nothing is technically for sale yet. It's just something that a creative project really.
Did you have another shirt?
Another shirt that I actually had another shirt that I was wearing there.
On the previous time?
Yes.
The last time we saw each other?
Yes. And that was one that I also had manufactured for me. But what this project is really about to me and what makes it special is not this shirt, but another shirt that I've completed now that I actually sewed by hand myself.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't wear that one here tonight because right now it's still blank, and I actually think that I'm going to do a design on it and everything like that. So it's not done yet. Mm-hmm. But the big thing about this project is that I'm trying to move away from having things manufactured for me and trying to take control of the means of production. Mm-hmm. As far back to, I'm not going to be growing the materials or anything from the ground or anything.
And you can buy textiles.
Exactly. And making the clothes, learning how to sew, getting it in touch with that part of the creation process when it comes to fashion. I feel like that would give me that's just that intimacy is what I desire.
Nice. Yeah. That crafting.
Exactly.
That sense of crafting something.
I mean, if you like made your own clothes, like, you think it'd be like, cheaper in the long run than just going out and, buying your own shit? Because from a personal account, my grandmother, she made my mom's clothes when she was little. She made my aunt's clothes when she was little. And I saw the pictures of them, wearing the clothing, and it wasn't bad. Like, it was, some nice jeans.
They had talent.
Like, my grandma could do the damn thing. I'm not
going
to lie.
I didn't think jeans.
Well, not like jeans, but like slacks, whatever.
Oh,
not like, denim, but.
Okay, yeah.
But I was like, damn, like, grandma, you like, why don't more people do this? Like,
right.
Yeah.
And that's something that I'm trying to bring back, because that's important. Like, everybody wants to be the head of a brand, but when it comes down to it, and I know that you can do that without, having to know how to sew. You can totally run a successful clothing brand without knowing how to actually do any of that. You can take the Henry Ford approach and just pay for the knowledge base and all of that stuff. But there's another element to it that I think is being lost in today's culture, where you don't respect that craftsmanship.
Yes.
And it becomes a lost art. And that, because if we don't,
physically
continue to celebrate and respect and practice these things, then that's, we will lose that. And you see that. And to answer your question about what you were saying about it being more cost effective, absolutely not. And you know why? Because in today's society, organizations that run the fashion companies right now have so much money that they buy such massive quantities of this stuff. They're getting it for cents, as to where I go to the store and I buy enough fabric. It's going to make me 3 t-shirts, and it's costing me like $70 for.
And you could buy one $70 Supreme shirt,
And that is true, but you also have to buy the sewing machine and all that stuff.
So there's a larger upfront investment to making your own clothing.
Exactly. And in the long run, it can be arguably the same, because if you make it to the quality that it lasts you forever, then you can say that, that's carrying on. Because that same fast fashion that I was talking about, that, they're getting to you for the cheap prices, is also not going to last you that long.
Correct. Like H&M, like, I do like H&M. They have good clothing, but it does break down real quick. Like, I gotten, plenty. I work at AT&T, so like, you got to wear black pants. So that's like my go-to place to get like some cheap black pants. But you can bet 4 months they're gonna fade like a motherfucker, start looking gray. Mm-hmm. So I could see like how you said, like that fast fashion. They just put it out quick. When you add like that quality touch to it, it does add that difference to it for sure.
Old Navy. I like Old Navy stuff. I think that they have some good quality jeans. I'm actually wearing some right now.
Yeah.
But for the no, I'm actually having Goodfellow, which is Target, but still good.
Hey, Target.
But for the black pants, just dye them. Buy some dye and get all your black pants together and just throw them in the washing machine one day, fill it up.
I've always considered doing that, but I never got to it.
Yeah, instead of just buying them every once in a while, you know what I'm saying? And those kind of epiphanies are actually what led me down the path that I'm going down now.
Life hacks.
I don't never had black pants like that, so I never needed to fucking do it. But I always thought like, oh, what if my shoes? That was a tougher job though. Shoes, get like tape, I don't know, and would it ruin all the other colors? So I was like, never mind.
I don't know how people do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's the
stuff that
level.
People do with shoes. They totally deconstruct and individually dye the pieces and then reconstruct the shoe.
Oh man,
this is the kind of stuff that people are doing, man. There are people out there who are doing that, you know. So there are these brands and stuff like that, and then there are these people who have these little intimate projects and stuff, and that was what I'm going after now, like actually learning that. And if it grows into something bigger that I can massively produce, that's cool too, because there's something to respect in that too, like being able to replicate one shirt exactly 10,000 times over. There's something to respect in that too. You know, that is a modern marvel, but being able to do it as one person and make a product with uniformity is something that makes you a master of something. That's
true. Yeah. Making something by hand the same way every time, uniformity, like you said. Wow.
There's this TikToker. He dyes shoes. So like he'll just get flat white Air Force Ones, pour them in. Have you seen it before?
No.
Well, he'll pour some blue dye in there and just dip the shoes and just wash them off, and they look fucking amazing.
Yeah.
And then like he'll get like a piece of tape and then like cut like a flame design across the tape it around the bottom of the shoe, the sole of the shoe, dye it, and you peel it off, and it's got this cool like flame, thing on it. And he said that he got an NBA player. He didn't say the name. So he's got like, real people coming at him trying to get these dip shoes. Little dude on TikTok got, 300,000, followers on Instagram. He's not even like a brand or anything like that. And he's, raking in fucking money.
That's like Nicole McLaughlin. She is a person who got famous off of Instagram is where I seen her, and she'll make clothes out of anything. And when I say anything could be plastic bottles. She'll make like a bikini top, or like she makes a hat out of bread, or shoes out of sponge, like the craziest stuff. And now every brand is collaborating with her, and they'll like upcycle pieces of their stuff. Like, so she worked with not Montclair, but I don't know if you know who Arc'teryx is.
I don't.
They're kind of like the North Face. It's a British brand, I believe.
I was about to say, sounds European.
Yeah, it's like that outdoor wear, though, like that weatherproof type stuff. And you like upcycled a bunch of their clothes to make new things out of it. And those type of innovators, it's like so amazing. But it's cool that people can recreate something new out of something, like repurposing in that way. But it also, I feel like it's almost like telling a tale of where we are with society, that we are these like, and it's not as intense or hyperbolic as in my mind, but it's like where we're these like people who are finding these scraps and we're sewing it together and stuff. And that is where that in society where that's more efficient than being able to, exactly, in a way. But like, it's like almost like we're like slowly but surely moving towards like that kind of stuff. But
it's a weird natural progression. That's, like, I mean, we're realizing the future ahead of us, so we're like somehow just naturally reaccustoming ourselves with these by hand skills of different sorts.
I think it's coming to us because we know that it's going to be increasingly more necessary in these next coming years.
Yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty. That was just some crazy stuff about freaking COVID, but we won't talk about that because I don't want the internet to shut us down.
Yeah, we're
not on episode 1.
Not on episode 1, no.
Shit. So how do you, what's your stance on like, sustainable, textiles? Like what is
sustainable clothing in general, or clothing that's like marketed as being sustainable?
I'm all for it. Like,
you're all for it?
Yeah. I know you guys seen those Levi commercials that they've been running like recently, where they talk about how the average article of clothing is only worn 7 times before it gets tossed out.
Yes,
Not
I've
me,
seen that.
not me.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Oh, you didn't see it?
Yeah, we're not average, bro. We're not.
I don't
worry.
wear my clothes 7 times and not wear it again. You know what
Me
I'm saying?
either. I love my clothes, man.
For real.
I actually miss some of my old articles of clothing more than some of the people who've been in my life. Sad to admit.
Dude,
Oh man.
I'll wake up, I'll just be thinking like, as I have this really cool, you know the skate brand DGK?
Yeah.
I had this really cool DGK sweatshirt, like a hoodie without the hood on it. And it was all black. It had, these 2 like Hawaiian girls with big ass titties and then like palm trees on it. That shit was fucking fire.
I think I remember that shit.
And I don't know where it went. And I bought it as a large at the time so I could wear it, longer. And I'm like,
oh my God.
and it's gone, bro. And I missed that fucking hoodie, bro.
I've never bought a clothing like that. Like, I'm gonna wear this for the long term. I better get it a size bigger.
I really liked it.
It's one of the worst feelings, man.
I never thought of clothing. I almost never bought clothing, honestly. I would always just get clothing on the holidays, and I would just wear that for as long as I could.
Nah, not me, bro. Not me.
I was big.
Yeah,
on clothes.
I was never too particular with what I wore. I would just always make sure that it was nice. I don't know, and it went together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Continue what you were saying.
What was I saying?
Sustainability. They wear it 7 times and they throw it away. I remember seeing a statistic. I don't remember how long it was, for a month or like it was probably honestly monthly. Most people buy like 3 pieces of clothing a month, or maybe like 5 or something like that. Just like something large, a handful of pieces of clothing per month. Most people buy. That's a lot of pieces of clothing, and they only wear it 7 times.
Yeah.
So like on average, how many pieces of clothing just get tossed away. So sustainability, obviously, is very important.
That was engineered.
And for your post-apocalyptic future, you definitely for that as well. When shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
I've heard my friend. He was telling me that his girlfriend went shopping recently. Granted, they don't go out very often because they live in very remote places. But she was commenting on the shelves out there in Dallas. A Walmart in Dallas had almost nearly empty shelves. I think Daniel says something similar about Publix. So
yeah, Publix.
it's just the supply chain fear. You know what I mean? So like, if that actually comes to fruition, will it hit clothing? Like, so far in my mind, I feel like clothing has not diminished. Like, we were talking earlier about freaking consoles. Like, the price of PS4s has shot up. Even Sony has decided we can't make PS5s right now, so let's just start making PS4s again.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. But like, in my mind, so far, clothes have always been around.
Yeah.
Still.
Shoes.
They're still able to pop that shit out, and it's not necessarily at higher costs. Maybe regular inflation, but it hasn't necessarily skyrocketed like
That's
other
true.
things. It hasn't become super scarce like other things.
Yeah, I mean, some would say that luxury items like that, clothing and like, high fashion items are actually one of the safer investments that there are nowadays and stuff.
That's wild to think of. Beyond gold and like beyond that, just like pieces of clothing now, like shoes. Like Daniel's, like, any shoe hustlers?
Yeah.
People that buying, like, it's crazy to me. I didn't realize that was a thing until like just recently. How big of a thing that was.
So I mean, I just bought a pair of shoes online for, it was like $220 something after tax and everything.
What were they?
A pair of Nike Dunks. They're called the Goldenrod colorway, and I bought them then. Well, they were $190 before all the tax and the shipping and everything like that, right? To go to the story. Well, right now they're $200.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they're increasing by relatively pretty much $10 every single week.
The lows
there.
or the highs?
The lows.
Okay.
And then I bought another pair of Dunks, relatively like 5 months ago, and that one is like $100 to $125 more expensive than when I bought it.
Hell yeah.
6 months ago.
Wow.
Name a stock that increases that much in value.
There's not one
in that amount of time.
You're right.
It's rare.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that all shoes will do this, and you have to have like, who I am, I'm the type of person that I'm good at picking. I have an edge. Let's just say it like that. And this, like gambling, the term when somebody has an edge, it's just my intuition.
Thing. Yeah.
So it would almost be like insider trading. It's like, I know that the shoes that I bought, I don't know. I can't tell you what price point they're going to, but I can tell that there was a limited supply of them. This colorway is effing amazing.
Yeah.
And I know that it will do that. And there's at least one pair of shoes that comes out every single month that if you buy it, it will increase in that value, guaranteed, at least one. And just knowing that is all that's important. It's knowing, and it's not even that hard though, because most things, if you keep it brand new and in the box and stuff, are going to be more expensive later.
Yeah, most things that are like, highly sought after and limited run, like it's going to be
just
like,
don't buy an ugly shoe. You know?
You don't buy an ugly shoe, then put your foot in enough things to get a shoe when it drops, right?
If you see a shoe that everybody else is hyped up about, but you're not that hot on it and stuff, buy it anyways.
Exactly. That's what I do, bro.
In a size that's not yours.
That's what I do.
And sell it once it goes up
$100. That part makes sense. Even though you're not into it, buy it anyways. Because Daniel sometimes sends into the group chat some, really nice Jordans, but I'm not necessarily into it because like the color, I mean, it's just not my thing. And I feel like it's kind of like, I don't know, different. But like you said, like as long as it's like real hot and it's highly sought after and people are looking for that thing, like I'm not necessarily into the trend, but like, shoot.
You know about the sneaker app, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I've probably pulled like 5 or 6 shoes and I've kept
off
one.
the Ravels?
Yes, and I've kept one.
Wow. I've never went on
really?
the Ravel. Yeah, hell no.
Bro, I could go show you the shoes. I got, they're called the Handcraft Air Jordan 1s.
Yeah. Oh,
bro.
Yeah.
Bro.
So the cool thing about what I'm saying though is all of the shoes that I bought that I'm talking about that have increased in this much and have this much of a profit margin, I bought them, resale. I didn't even buy them at retail. This is an infinitely like, I'm not saying that there's no ceiling to this, but because we are on the verge of hyperinflation and stuff, and I do 100%. Want anybody who's listening to this to bear that in mind too. This whole, I can't say how long this will be, but going like this, but we are in a sweet spot for those luxury goods and all of that stuff like that, because people are enjoying. It's kind of like when the Romans and everybody were just stuffing themselves with food and drinking stuff until they threw up before the end of the empire and stuff like that.
Yes. They would stuff their faces so much, and then they would make themselves throw up, and then they would go fucking eat some more.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just endlessly.
So not to be cynical, but we may be in something that is kind of...
Not similar. I don't think that something like that could ever, honestly, I don't think something like that could ever happen again, because we're near the point of like global civilization. Almost. The Romans were just like, a few 100,000 miles. I don't know how fucking... The radius was small, you know what I mean? Like, if America... We're not going to like stop... I'm just saying like...
Mass production is through the roof right now.
When the Romans were around, they were the only thing to an extent in the quote world. And so when they collapsed, it was like the whole world collapsed. But like we don't exist singularly in the world. That's what I'm trying to say. So if we collapse, the world is still going to keep going.
And you're oh yeah, no, it wouldn't be the end of the world or anything like that. No, you're totally right. I guess what I was just comparing it more to is I believe that there's really no rational explanation as to why things like that will be going up at a time like this when we're on the verge of something that I don't think people have a full grasp of just yet.
This inflation is crazy.
It's a mania.
It's a mania. It's a crazy. It's a mystery.
It's a mania to still be buying the goods that we're doing and doing all this stuff in the time that we are.
It's definitely psychological. Yeah, for sure.
So being mindful of that, and I think that that's a good market, because there's a lot of ways that people are just flat out taking advantage of people with a lot of schemes and scams and stuff with these coins and fake NFTs and all that stuff like that. NFTs. I think that this is one thing that's kind of reasonably morally like just neutral from you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm buying this thing. I don't even choose the suggested price that these things increase to. I just plug it in for what people are selling it for at this point. Somebody else buys it because they want it. And, I didn't even have to tell them to buy it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
sells itself.
Yeah. You can talk about the sweatshops that actually made that, but that's before me. And like, I don't believe that we're at the step that we're able to tackle that problem just yet, because that would involve negotiations and contracts globally. And once we get to that global civilization, then we can talk about stuff like that. And it's something to focus on, because that's another portion of the conversation of sustainability, is moving away from slave wages and all of that other stuff in the world too.
Yeah.
Which is why we want to consume less in the first place, because we know that a lot of these clothes, some little child in India or something like that made, which is why this shirt is super cool and everything like that, but my sloppy little shirt that was the first thing that I ever created and I sewn together is that much more important because I know that a little child didn't have to make that.
Mm-hmm.
Before you ended, you said one world government, and we were talking about like, you know, money and stuff like that. But I just got to bring it up. You heard it here first, guys. One of the first steps they tried on the world stage to suggest a global corporate tax rate. I've never heard of shit like that. You ever heard of something like that? Like they were trying to decide some global law that would affect individuals.
To provide what? It's like we allow you to continue to draw air on this earth, right?
Well, I suppose they just want to keep away, you know, the whole tax haven thing, you know, like Google hiding their money in like Scotland or some shit. They just want to kill that a little bit. But I've never heard that they were trying to set some kind of global law like that. I don't know what happened with it, but they were suggesting and talking about this. Further developments. They'll go farther. But that's, you know, like kind of like first steps. But anyways,
interesting.
Daniel, what were you saying?
You heard it here first. So you know how like, you know, food brands market food vegan and like they'll test it and it's not vegan.
Word.
Do you think like clothing companies are doing the same thing with sustainability?
Branding?
Yeah,
oh,
definitely.
Totally, yeah.
It's all about consumer facing. That's what they call it, consumer facing. And the rhetoric of how you say something to the 100% beef, but 100% beef is actually the name of the place where you get this, you know what I'm saying? It's consumer facing. And once again, I can't hate the people for playing the game that is going on right now, but these are big red flags of indicators that after so long, we are going to have to stop the bullshit because the lie will increase in the actual portion of what you're getting. The reality of what you're getting is going to get down to nothing. And then they're going to be like, you know what I'm saying? It's like the bag of chips is going to be this much air. There's going to be 3 chips in there. And then we're going to be like, what? You know what I'm saying? Like it's going to happen in that way. And it happens in every industry. It's a problem with the way that we view economics right now because we have such a scarcity mentality and we don't have the global mentality of tackling this as a humankind. There's a lot of barriers in between that. Now, I'm not like, hey guys, like, you know, it's stupid. Why don't we just all turn around? Like, there are going to be wars. There are going to be things. Other nations are not so gung-ho about these things that we're talking about. Some people are still pro-slavery today and have slaves, 100%. You know, like the Uyghurs. Yeah, free them. If you don't know what that is, look it up. But, you know, I mean, one day, once we stop all that weird stuff, maybe we can, you know, actually work on true sustainability. Like all the stuff that we're talking about now is little nicks at it and stuff, but this is all play until we all get on this mindset, you know, together. And I don't know how far.
I got theories about where we are on that journey. Yeah, I got theories. Watch other episodes. You'll get some of those theories. I got somebody coming on. At some point, I got to schedule them work on that. But they work in like environmental something. They work at Piney Point. That's where the whole like leak happened with the Tampa Bay. That some people are like conspiring on what happened with the red tide around here and all the dead fishes.
What happened? Somebody dumping?
I mean, I don't want to get too into it. He doesn't too much, know. But like, there was like a leak that happened in one of the phosphorus mine. You know, in south of Tampa, they got those phosphorus mines where they mine phosphorus, which is used for fertilizer. It's a white mineral,
and it creates the algae when it leaks into the lakes. I do know that.
So it's like basically it's a fertilizer, and the water that they use in the plant somehow is involved with that. And so this water becomes slightly irradiated. Not really enough to affect a whole lot, allegedly. But the main point is that it's just loaded with minerals and it's basically a fertilizer, right? Because it's come in contact with so much fucking phosphorus. Yeah. So they had a leak in the way that they stored that water. And that went into the bay.
Dang.
Right before we had those algae blooms. So, I mean, they're not saying it's connected. They were blowing it off. I mean, I can't see that it helps, but that happened.
Honestly, that was the worst.
I was just saying that because, you know, theories will be brought up on those episodes. Catch it all.
Yeah, I would definitely check that out. I'll definitely.
Because that was the worst season of Red Tide that I've ever seen in my 20 years of living
it was
in Florida.
coincidentally very bad. But anyway, that was just, part of the conversation of sustainability. Sorry, guys.
No, you're good. You're good. Yeah, man. I just think that, we, where we're at in America, we have a lot of room for improvement. And I think that just bringing a lot of the industry back home and stuff like that will help us to focus on that, because we won't want our children working for terrible wages and stuff like that in these places. And we're already at a wage crisis in America and everything like that. And we're kind of being put in this position where we are going to have to figure all that stuff out here. It's, people are not, they're like refusing to work for these wages now.
They're flat out refusing.
Exactly.
They just wake up in the morning, think about how much money they're going to lose and say, fuck it. And then they extrapolate even more and more. And then eventually they just say, fuck it all. It's bad. I'm sorry. Unfortunately, I cannot relate because I would have to keep going.
Me too.
That's just me personally.
Gotta pay my rent.
No, I agree with you. With you.
It is unfortunately a mind state that a lot of people have come to, and it is going to have effects at a greater scale. I mean, for sure.
Yeah, most definitely.
But you brought up coins earlier, and now that you mentioned how we have to bring the industry back home, it just reminds me of the whole decentralization idea, like the coins have, cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, King. So like decentralizing the industry.
Yeah.
Yeah, having more smaller operations, more brands.
Exactly. Less Walmart. Like, we don't want to trust one person for everything. It's a terrible, terrible model.
Yeah.
No matter how benevolent they are, it doesn't matter. It's just not going to work out that way. And not just about it's not about the money aspect. So many people are worried about the money aspect of it. And it's about the actual art of being able to do these things, survive and live and thrive as a civilization. Like, we have to get back to respecting that. We have to get back to respecting infrastructure, jobs, the plumbers, the electricians, the people where it's not all glitz and glamour and something that is camera ready. I mean, it can be televised if we just change our mentality on what we, really appreciate and admire. At least that's what I've been personally doing. And that's something that I've been coming to notice more and more with society and media and stuff. So,
Yeah. You gotta figure out how to make things last instead of just worrying about what the price of something is.
For real.
If something costs a little bit more, whatever, it's gonna last much longer than something that was cheaper.
But I mean, in the corporate world, it's always about the bottom line. So, I feel like that's never going to change.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, what can you do? The penny pinchers of the world.
Exactly. If you can save, a little money here, they're going to do it.
Yeah, that's true. I don't got any kids, so I'm going to, buy a $15 shirt instead of a $9 shirt. You know what I mean?
Exactly. We can change the mentality, though. And the cool thing about it is that it hasn't been like this for as long as people think. I mean, a couple 100 years is really not that much. And yeah, there were times of lords and vassals and stuff like that. And they had their place. And there were
kings and the kingdoms.
But those people, they had, the titles and rank and stuff that protected them and demanded a certain respect. But you would be lying if you didn't think that the blacksmith wasn't just as important as the king in the place. Because there wasn't, if he died or, you could.
Well, that's what the Freemasons originally figured out.
Yeah.
It was like, shoot, we're the only ones that can build the walls and the kings need the walls. So looks like the kings need us and we got technically more power than the kings,
and we can negotiate with that knowledge. You see how important that knowledge is. Now think about that, like in today's society where everybody loves shirts, everybody wants to buy shirts, but nobody knows how to actually make a shirt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like
crazy.
Just something to think about.
If the supply chains do fuck up, I'm gonna have to come up to you, Jordan. Yo, Jordan,
hook me up. I need 3 t-shirts, 1 pair of shorts.
LOL.
I'll throw you 5 apples.
I guess that segues to the next portion of what I wanted to talk about was brotherhood.
Well, yeah. Unification is another part of the process of the steps that we were just talking about. It all is definitely coincides with one another. And I think that the mentality that people have, you know, of not viewing each other as one species, one race who is kind of like fighting for survival together. I think the main point of it is really just understanding that human beings aren't our number one enemy. Like, think of another species that views themselves as their number one enemy.
Internally, yeah.
It's pretty much
just us.
And chimpanzees have similar tactics, but I can't say that they view each other as their number one because they still do packs and stuff. That's why you got
your shirt. I mean, that's what it says. Hate people that hate people. So I mean, that's what we're talking about here, I guess.
Right. Hey, man, there's a lot of recurring themes and stuff like that in life. I've come to find, you know, a lot of it all does is teach lessons and stuff like that in a cyclical or a similar fashion. But you know, on the brotherhood scale of that, I think that it's super important, and just for the mental health of people,
for sure,
and men specifically. I will be honest, men specifically in Western society have certain traits and things that have been assigned to them stereotypically that lead them down certain paths that just really aren't the best for healthy communication, social networking, growth, expansion, or life and relationships. And it's like something that we can't turn a blind eye towards much more and expect to progress as a society. And we're expressing so many things that we want to improve on with society, but are we the men? Are we the people? Are we the civilization who is going to tackle these problems? You know? Yeah,
I think so.
I think we can be. I definitely think that we can be.
You said, you know, brotherhood and unity is, you know, the biggest and, you know, the first step into, you know, this more cohesive society. Why do you think that, you know, men nowadays think it's weird, or, you know, they get uncomfortable with the idea of
I remember what I was going to say.
Of guys.
It's because of our stereotypes. Yeah, like you said, the Western civilization, the way that we were, men in Western civilization specifically, like you said, have a problem with the idea of being in unity with other men.
Yeah, because Indian dudes still hold hands across the street.
That's what I was gonna say. Like, some Eastern cultures got some crazy standards and like weird customs that men do. Like fucking some
crazy,
some Indian
weird.
men
did you
hear
what you just said?
Crazy and weird. Yes, by our standards, by my. That's okay. I'm saying this for me.
No, it's cool. It's cool. It's cool. It's cool. No, because it is crazy and it is weird. I'll admit it because that's how we were raised, right? And, you know, it's okay. Everybody has their threshold. I'm not saying that we have to go full on, you know, like French kiss each other or anything, like, you know, Sicilians or anything, like, you know, but we can, you know, there's just room for improvement is all I'm going to say. Mm-hmm. So, like, that's why I had my, you know, social meetings that I was doing for men and stuff where it was like, you know, whatever we could talk about.
What was that called? What was it?
It's the Iron Society.
That was dope. I attended one of these meetings. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought we had some awesome conversations.
When was that?
Honestly, I remember I was trying to invite you to it, but like just shit happened. I couldn't make it, but yeah, man, that conversation that we had there honestly might have, in a little way, motivated me to do what I'm doing right here.
Hey, man. Well, that makes me really happy to hear because that's actually exactly what those things were designed for, to inspire this kind of stuff, because that's what can happen. I mean, that was, you know, there's something small and stuff. Like, imagine that magnified. Like, imagine if we actually identified this as a problem and on the news they were saying, well, study shows, you know, I mean, obviously study shows that men and suicide's up to this rate and depression is up to this rate and stuff. And studies actually show that when men actually get together and, you know, talk about their feelings and stuff, and it actually improves. Like, what if they actually
show?
It's really obvious stuff.
It should be, right?
That, you know, that when we fraternize with the people who exist on this planet with us and don't just view it like we're in caves, like, you know what I'm saying, like tribally fighting against one another for survival. There's an element to that, but I believe that there's a smarter tactic that we can evolve into to overcome this better if we just understand that. You got to think about it. Our freaking muscles have shriveled down to nothing. We are not the same species that we were 100 years ago, but what has expanded our mind? There's a reason for that. That's our most important resource. It's what makes us the alpha predators of the planet. Let's use more of it.
And our social skills. People don't think about that.
Yeah.
Socially, humans, oh my God. Can you people can't understand how socially backward people were back in the day.
How so?
And I mean, when you talk about specifically in the subject of unity, brotherhood, like one person from someplace and another person from someplace, if they saw each other, there would just be like an unspoken, for no reason, like tension. Like people, there's just xenophobia used to be far worse than it was now.
Mm-hmm.
So people now are way more together.
I mean,
think about like the internet, how socially open that is, and the way that people interact from all places in the world. I mean, you talk about being a different species, like not needing any muscles. You back then, if you didn't have those skills,
the women were strong back then. They were back there chopping wood and like
you saw if you go back far enough and stuff, if you were a dude and you saw another dude coming over the horizon who was bigger than you and he had his battle axe on looking like He-Man and bro, there was no option. That was
on site.
That was prison outside, bro. You just had to be strong enough or you were going to have very terrible things happen to you. Childish Gambino, Donald Glover or I always get them confused. Donald Glover.
Glover's the older black guy.
Yeah, he had this one joke that I always like totally changed my aspect on things like reverse engineering and romanticizing the past, because he was talking about how this girl was like, oh, I was attacked. I was like, something happened to you. And then the only response that people have is like, what do you expect? It's nighttime. Because that was it. When it was dark, it was like, bro, you better turn on the torches. If the torches didn't work, bro, some rats were going to come nibble on your toes or something. They're going to eat the baby while you were asleep or something, like, Yeah, it's crazy. So many things to think about.
How things have changed and how that has changed us as a species.
Yeah.
Beyond just like when people think about evolution, we always think about physical changes, but now it's all for the last 200, 300 years. It's all been up here and like how we've been able to socialize. That's how we've changed as a species.
And technology. That's a part of our evolution. The way that we've developed
we've co-evolved. We've always been integrated with technology. People hate it now. People are, we're too involved with technology. We need to separate. Excuse me. If our ancestors separated from the primitive technology called clothing, we would have not made it a long time ago. Yeah. So we've always been intertwined. To bring that back to clothing.
Hammers is technology.
I was gonna say that a hammer is technology.
A hammer is technology. Yeah, of course. People think that a tool is technology. Yes, that's obvious. But clothing, the Ice Age would have been the period of human civilization. The period.
A hammer is like perfect though when you really think about it, because like when can you ever how do you make a better hammer?
You really can't. Just maybe bigger.
It hasn't changed, right? I mean, it's still
a denser metal. That is the same thing since like almost 1,000 years ago, probably over.
Yeah. Basically, a heavy thing at the end of the stick with a good surface to hit something with.
A lever on the other end, some kind of leverage. Yeah, that's crazy, man. That's really crazy to think about, because
that it was invented. Who invented that?
The simple tool hasn't changed for years. Years. I mean, that just shows the efficiency of
that something was created with near perfection. That makes you wonder, like, where did it come from?
Exactly.
Right.
Who invented the hammer, man? Someone look it up.
I think that after a while you could calculate like from leverage, and then like it's like, oh, you get a stick, and then you realize that if you have something heavier at the end with the way that it swings around, that it's faster.
Maybe it goes to the arm. It just goes to the arm.
Right.
Yourself naturally, an understanding of your own natural body mechanics. When I punch something from right here, it kind of sucks. But if I punch something all the way out here, well, why is that better? And maybe you just say, well, if I can get something even longer and heavier, there goes the inspiration to go and create something yourself.
Exactly. And a lot of the geometry that we use for our engineering and stuff is the same thing that appears in nature from natural structures and how they, align themselves and stuff. So I'm sure we've studied a lot of that.
The human body, yeah. Who is it that said it? Like the human man is the measure of all things. Someone said that.
It's probably some Da Vinci shit.
It was like
some Da Vinci shit, but they meant that for real. Like we didn't even know. Do you know where the origin of the mile is?
No.
Isn't it
comes from the Latin word mile, or
like
mil.
A king like on their horse for a certain distance. Like I thought, like all stuff was like
close,
measured by like the king's standards.
Yeah, for something like that. So the mile is 1,000 steps.
Mm-hmm.
the standard of which would be whatever the king's size was.
Mm-hmm. So like measurements were changing constantly when they got new kings. Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's funny that we complain about like double speak and all kind of stuff like that. Now it's like, imagine if you had to relearn all the measurements and stuff like that every time you got a new ruler, just because he's a different size than the last guy.
Yeah, that's crazy, right? Oh, you know what? This king, he ain't shit. We're gonna still use the last king's foot size.
Right.
So the last king had a size 12 foot. Because 12 inches, right?
I don't know.
I guess whoever decided to solidify that one.
No, the mile today of 5,100 and I don't know how many feet, that is based off of, I believe, the Egyptian foot size or something like that.
A foot was developed by the United States. It wasn't even from King time.
We're the only ones on
the
what is it, metric?
No,
well, we call it a foot now, but it's inspired by what was a pace back in the day, because the 1,000 of a mile, the mil, is 1,000 what? It's 1,000 paces. So what is a pace? Well, we just, in modern times, because of the founders of our civilization respected this history of measurements, and so they created a foot. That's why we don't go to the imperial system, because our nation was founded by believers of this history.
That's like the whatever our equivalent is. Either the pound is based off of like the kilogram or something like that. Like our American weight system is based off of like all of our stuff is based off the metric system essentially, and then they just developed it slightly, and they were just like, "This is ours now." Like, I don't even know why, but
it's not 75 degrees; it's 32 degrees Celsius.
Right.
Well, specifically with the distance with the measurement of distances, it's a very deep history in there. I think somewhere I've heard that allegedly the inch to the mile is what the foot is to the earth. So some crazy proportion like that. So you got to think like, wait a second, way back then they knew the size of the earth.
About to say
when they were conceiving these measurements.
Well, I mean, you know about the Samaritans? They had the whole galaxy mapped out.
You mean the Sumerians?
Sumerians, yeah.
The Samaritans.
The Samaritans. They had the whole...
Those good Samaritans
good ones,
mapping out those galaxies for us.
Yeah, not the bad
They had
ones.
the galaxy mapped out. Like
the whole solar system.
Mapped out. And that was thousand years ago. So
before they could even see it.
I'm sure they had. There was some technology knowledge. Some alien came down and told them how to do it.
Secret knowledge from somewhere. Which brings me to a story that I wanted you to tell us about. Some knowledge that you were in possession of that was taken.
Yeah. Okay. So back in 2012. I moved out for the first time on my own, which really wasn't on my own. I was with like friends and stuff like that. And I had taken a few books with me from where I was living before. I was living with my mom's ex-husband before I moved, and he lived in a house that was owned by his, I guess, a benefactor, for lack of a better term.
Benefactor? Yeah, somebody who was just...
They weren't related, but they were really close friends. So he worked on his guns because he was a gunsmith, and he worked on his guns for a long time. And then the guy who died was a doctor, a dentist, and he worked on his teeth for a long time. So they had that weird thing. And he didn't have a son, so when he died, he just left all his stuff to... my mom's ex-husband and everything. I was living with him at the time after they weren't together and stuff because of some whole other crazy situation. But anyways, he had all this stuff, and the guy was a Mason, the dude who passed away. So I found a couple of their books and stuff, and I was like, holy, you know what I'm saying? They have an encyclopedia. Ooh. Exactly. I'm trying to find out what they got going on in there and stuff like that. So I take that with me, and spoiler alert, it's kind of looks like children's stories, the stuff that was inside of it, which is really weird. And I believe that there's something deeper to it. Like it might be actually codified or something.
Allegorical stuff, metaphors, sure.
That or exactly it goes along with something that you would actually, deal with in real life or participate. So you actually know what it's talking about.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Because it just seemed like like I said, it seemed like elementary school, like stories about how the planet started and stuff like that. But
okay, so you took the books.
Yeah, I took the books with me to this new place that me and all my homeboys were staying at. And long story short, my homeboys kind of got into some trouble with the law and everything like that at that time, and our spot ended up getting raided. And among all of the belongings that were taken and confiscated that didn't belong to people, my books were taken out of my personal belongings, and it was like the only thing was these few Masonic texts. So
the police came, they looked for whatever, and the only thing that was taken was your books.
And let's just say they were not looking for
the books that you were in possession of.
Exactly. So it wasn't the only thing that they took. They did take.
Okay.
They did take what, apparently they were.
Yeah,
looking
but with
for,
no
allegedly.
pretext, they just took the books.
That had nothing, not anywhere near whatever they were dealing with.
Right.
Exactly.
Totally unrelated, and they just took these books.
Yes, that were in my bag. Like it wasn't like just laying out on the table. Like it was in my belongings. They put all the stuff back in my backpack that was there, but the books. Like so, I'm like, hiding these little children, and that's what makes me know it's like, dog, there wasn't no little kid stories in there. Obviously, like there's something more to that. Like which I'm not going to assign it to evil or anything because I know that just being secretive about your knowledge doesn't necessarily lead to evil. Especially when we see like people don't always make the good choice or the choice that you want them to make when you tell them or teach them how to do something. So,
did you ever do any research on these texts? Like what you read, did you ever like look into what it could have meant?
Every now and then I do, but that's one of those things where it's like we'll have so much different sources that you will never be able to vet.
Yeah.
It's like one of those things where it's like you might as well wait, try and experience it from the inside, and then see what that's all about. Because if you sit there and speculate, you'll just drive yourself crazy.
I'm sure you could find some kind of consistency along all the interpretations, though.
There's definitely places where you can draw the lines. And I've seen some, I've seen like and read some things about, just the way that they're formed and everything, that there is levels to their practices and what they teach and stuff like that. So it's like, but you never know though. Like the reason that I don't get too worried about that, I know that there's truth in there and there's real things that real secrets and knowledge that they have and stuff. It's like, and then all that, there's humans and stuff like that. You could chase all that, and the end of the dude could be some kooky person who made all this stuff up in the first place anyway. And everybody was just like, "Wow, I was right, man." And
the Wizard of Oz.
You know what I'm saying? Exactly.
Like Scientology. Yeah. I'm not gonna join no religion that a dude had a goddamn driver's license and has a social security number. Nah.
You never know, man. Like, hey, I'm not putting it past. Like,
who knows, man? It's a brotherhood. At the end of the day, at the very least, they're creating some sort of brotherhood.
We could still have a few good prophets left. You know what I'm saying? In humankind too, and we never know.
I played some video games. There's not enough prophets.
So I have a question for you, completely off topic of what we've been talking about today.
Yeah.
Have you ever had any type of paranormal ghost stories?
Have you had a paranormal experience? To close this out, we don't have too much.
Yeah. I have definitely had a paranormal experience.
Let's hear it.
I can't even get into all of it because it lasted over the course of like two
when did it start?
3 weeks. It was in 2012. It was right before I moved out and everything like that. That was actually a part of like what led up to that.
So it was in your childhood house, or it was like
nah. It was in that house where I was living with my mom's ex-husband.
Okay. Yep. Okay.
And it wasn't no abduction or anything. So it basically started. It was the 4th of July of 2012. It's going to be crazy because it's like, of course, it starts with a night of partying and taking some psychedelic
Hold
things.
On. So is this an alien story or a ghost story?
I don't know.
It's paranormal, bro. It's beyond explanation.
I don't know.
That's the point. Unexplainable.
So
unexplainable. Yeah.
It was a fun night, inebriation, psychedelics.
It started off fun, but it was like, so I was like sleep deprived and stuff, and I was taking stuff that we thought was gonna be acid, but it ended up to be like DOB or something like that. And I took another dose at like 3 a.m, and from that point on, it was just like all hell kind of broke loose. Not just in general, but I mean, not just at that point, but in like life.
In reality.
So, from that point, I didn't sleep at all that night. And there was a point where I definitely felt like everybody around me had been like, I won't say possessed, but it's like, it was almost like It's almost like animatrons where you shut the power off, so they're like powered down and stuff, and then they like came back, but it wasn't like their souls were in their body. And this is not the typical stuff that I experience when I'm tripping. At this point, I am very experienced with these kind of things, and it's
but you were on a drug.
Exactly.
Had you had this strange, not LSD drug before?
Not that I can say for sure.
Right, because it was unidentified.
And that is very true. And there are definitely elements of that could have played a part into this. But
so in your experience, you were just witnessing people suddenly losing animation and, to your perception, their soul.
It was more so than that. It was kind of like so I was laying on the couch, right? And everybody was just kept walking around, but like not saying anything and not walking normally, like walking like, and not everybody was on this stuff. It was just me.
True.
Yes. But yeah, so there was that. Everything had like a blank stare. Like everyone had like a blank stare to them, and it was super strange.
What was your level of consciousness at this point? Like if somebody had walked up to you and tried to have a conversation, would you have been able to have it?
Yes.
You think so?
Yeah, I was always coherent. I've never been at a point, besides alcohol, surprisingly enough, I've never been at a point where I've been on any type of psychedelic where I've been too wonked out to talk, and that's including DMT. But
so, I mean, at this point, is it safe to assume that you're used to seeing things that aren't real?
Never. I've never before or after that experienced anything relatively close to that. Ever.
Never like that.
Never like that. Never. And like I said, you know, even on DMT, which is way more powerful than that, I've had true visual hallucination and where I've not been in that room, but it was not comparable to that.
Yeah.
Like that experience was solely relatively different than any experience that I've ever had with a substance. And it rolled over into the next day, because that was actually the 3rd of July that I was explaining. The 4th of July was the next day when none of these effects wore off. I hadn't slept again. And at some point, the brainlessness carried over to everybody who I came in contact with. It wasn't just like a person these people had vacated. It was like the entire world around me had shifted into another like alternate reality where people, it felt like I had like a strange, the word violent comes to mind, but it's not like anybody like threatened me or anything, but it's just like, have you ever seen on TV or like one of those typical horror shows where like somebody goes through the like an old country town where it's like everybody's like not quiet, or they like seem hospitable, but they're like, hey, like y'all, Westworld. Like y'all be sure to. It's like it was like that type of vibe. Like I went over to my friend's mom's house and she was like, y'all want something to eat? Y'all want something to eat? And like I kept saying no and stuff, right? But she kept kept saying it over and over and stuff. And I'm like, am I the only one who notices this? Because nobody else made comment of it or even responded to her. And there were so many things that were happening like that, and it rolled over into the night and stuff. And this spiraled into like
you said this went on for a couple of weeks.
Couple of weeks.
How else did this develop? What else? I mean, because at this point, like I feel like the effects of the drugs might be affecting still on the next day, but like you said, 2 weeks. So what's going on? What else?
Okay. All right. So among that next 2 weeks, or the next 3 to whatever weeks, a new human, a new Pokemon, a new human being literally moves into this neighborhood that I'm living in. Mind you, as far as people who have been my age living in this neighborhood, there were 3 of them. Me, Dean Wood, if you know him, and then his younger brother Jacob Wood.
I know Dean.
If you know them. And then this was the 4th in all of my time living there. It happened right, near. I moved out by the end of these 3 weeks, and that's kind of a little bit of the strangeness carried on, which leads to the story that I told earlier. But essentially, during that time there, basically, I meet this new person who has never seen before in my neighborhood and stuff. He comes up to me. We smoke weed this first day that we were ever met each other, and we have this conversation. He's like, "Yeah, I'm Jake," blah, 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 saying all this other stuff. And I go and I talk, and I go to my friend's house, and they're talking about this person who we had never even met together and stuff. And so I get into some shit with him where, I get into some
juicy.
I'm trying to say this. A man who did strange had strange behaviors towards me when I was young, and I've always had inklings of believing that he was a pedophile, essentially.
Okay.
In this 2-week time span, propositioned himself to me and asked
straight up
money to try and solicit things from me.
Wow. Right.
During this time, how do I say this without something incriminating? I mean, it's past statute of limitations. Something bad happens to that person that I was completely unrelated to, but the other person who came in was behind, right? And he came to me, and he didn't know that. I never told any of them that happened to me during that time until years later when I told a totally different group of people.
Mm-hmm.
But so nobody knew that happened besides me and the dude who did that.
Right.
Dude does something while he's doing some housekeeping around home guy's house and stuff, like the older guy. Exactly. And he comes and he tells me what he did and stuff like that. I didn't tell him about that. During the whole course of this 3-week period, there was a time where I saw, Beretta representatives, because I lived on a gun range, and there were Beretta representatives who were coming to test this new gun that looked like a laser gun, in all honesty, but whatever. That's the smallest of the weird things that happened during that time. Essentially, they told people in the neighborhood that I was smoking shrooms by the river, where I was chilling by the river, and I was smoking weed, but they said I was smoking shrooms specifically. And guess what? Nobody from the neighborhood told me. Once again, this was something that my friends told me, because my friends, they chill at the bar that was in the neighborhood, and they were like, yeah, man, everybody in the neighborhood was up there saying that you got caught by the Beretta reps over there smoking shrooms and stuff. This is all verifiable now. These are people, you can call them up and ask. I mean, they might barely remember these things because they didn't know all these things were happening to me at once, but these are verifiable stories. People were there during this time.
Okay.
That same time span, the dude who owns the clubhouse, the bar that all these dudes gossiped about all this stuff at, accused me of trying to I don't even know, with his wife and stuff when she was at the pool, just because I was walking around the neighborhood one day and his wife was at the pool taking a swim. I didn't even know she was there at the time. I was smoking weed like I usually am when I'm sneaking around at nighttime. So that happens. There was a night where my mom's ex-husband was so zonked out that he handed me the keys to his car during this 2-week time. Once again, same eyes. He had the same situation going on that they had previously. And it was in and out. It wasn't always that I was seeing that. But at that time, he did. And he hands me the keys and he was like, here. Never has done that before or after that. I literally go inside, and part of me, I don't have a license at the time. I'm 18, but I just turned 18, didn't have a license. A part of me is like, should I take the car and go somewhere? And I'm like, nah, because if I do that, I'm going to get in trouble. Blah, blah, blah. So I just go inside and I just set the keys on the kitchen table and go to bed and stuff like that. Well, I wake up the next day, and this is one of the weirdest things that I can never explain how or why this happened, but a police officer stopped me in the neighborhood one day during this whole span and told me, hey, I got a call that you were trespassing in this neighborhood and that you're not supposed to be here. Such and such and so, blah, 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 right? So he takes me and he takes me into his car, right? And he puts me in the back seat without handcuffs on. And he acts like he's going to take me to I don't know where he was acting like he was going to take me. But he was acting like he was going to take you somewhere. Not under arrest, but some pseudo type of situation, right? Yeah. Trying to remove me from the neighborhood. But he literally takes me to the end of the road. So I'm in Silver Dollar. I don't know if you know where that is. Yeah. So I'm at Silver Dollar, and he takes me to the end of Patterson Road. Mm-hmm. And stops the car and says, okay, you can get out now. Just don't go back there. And I said,
bro, I live back.
That was my home where I live at in my neighborhood. And I'm not entirely sure why you told me that I'm trespassing there. And he just said, now you just don't go back there. Okay. And I said, okay. He pulls off. Doesn't even look at me and watch me go. I immediately start walking back there because what the fuck am I gonna do?
Crib, dude.
And somebody from the neighborhood picks me up on the side of the road, like, hey, you need a ride back to town? You know where you live at? Yeah, man. And I said, yes, please. And get driven back home.
That's weird.
Go home, get in the shower, and the guy came back.
The officer?
Officer came back. I'm in the shower and I hear him at the door and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, I'm in the shower, blah, blah, blah. You know, that was my like, ha ha ha. You're not gonna say something while I'm in the bathroom, right? The motherfucker came in the bathroom and was talking to me and says, now, you know, you're not supposed to be here, da da da, and stuff like that, blah, blah, blah. You know,
that is very weird.
At this point,
who's watching you?
At this point,
who's watching you get in the neighborhood that told the police? You know what I mean?
And at this point, after all of you got to understand. I'm sure in your brains you're like, aren't you asking questions, like saying why and then happening? At this point, all this stuff that had been happening to me so much that I was like, I felt like if I question it more, like something in the universe was gonna like really harm me or something. Like it was scaring me at that point, to be honest with you.
Wow.
So I was just like, bro, it was like part of me felt like it was a test. Like, well, shit, if this is how I die or something like that, then whatever. But at the same time, I was like, I'm not going to ask too many questions because I feel like I wouldn't get an answer anyways.
Yeah. At what point did you take the books?
Okay, so all during this same 3-week period, I'm on the back porch and stuff like that, and my stepdad doesn't know that I'm there. Trigger warning for this next part, racism. I overhear him talking to my neighbor who was looking for me to go do some bullshit job where we detail cars and stuff. I hated working with him. I hated it so much because it was way too, I mean, he really wasn't the worst person, but it was just chump shit that he did. And I never wanted to do it. But, he was looking for me. I was not trying to be found. They didn't know I was there. So, I overhear my person I was living with tell him, yeah, I don't know where that guy is, man. Between you and me, that's the laziest N-word I ever met, blah, blah, blah. So I overhear this and I'm furious. And I'm like, this dude's a gunsmith. And I'm just like so convinced. I'm like, man, I'm just going to take one of them guns in there and just do him while he's sleeping or something like that one of these days. But fortunately for me, I get a call from my friend. He says, hey, yo, my girl just got locked up, bro. She's going to prison, bro. We need somebody else to live in the house and stuff like that. Either the same day or that very next day from this that happens. So I go there 2 maybe 3 days later. I went, I left that household, spent the night at my friend Dean's house and stuff like that. And then off I went to this house to have this whole other adventure that happened. And yeah, man. So
I mean, that to me
seems like what?
To me, the beginning, it sounded like maybe like some kind of reality veil was lifted on you and you were just kind of like seeing, I guess, people for really what they were is what it kind of sounded like to me.
I hate that this story starts with a psychedelic experience because that's automatically like a discrediting factor and stuff. And I totally believe that things like this happen in those states for that purpose.
Yeah.
For multi-dimensional, for multi-reasons. One, there's because, I believe that it's certain things like knowledge are actually veiled by the universe because I believe in meaning. To life. And I believe that there's purpose of things. I do believe that there is free will, but I also do believe that a certain portion of life is predetermined in certain ways. So I do believe that you aren't supposed to know something that you aren't supposed to know. And if I want you to know it because I know it, no matter how much I want you to know it, if the universe doesn't permit you to learn that thing, then nothing I can try to convey to you will teach that thing to you.
Sure.
So it's kind of one of those kind of situations. And that's why I don't care. I'm not the first one to be like, hey, I got this crazy story and stuff like that. Because it really wasn't a fun experience. This was something that happened to me and I felt like weird. I can never explain this to somebody and nothing that I ever do will ever make it explainable in a way that people will be able to accept as real because you have to go through that to actually believe it.
Seems like some greater force was just getting you out of that house.
It was terrible.
Did anybody do like a Ouija board in that house or anything?
Right. I know, right?
Oh.
No, but I asked you, like, at what point, when did you grab those books off of that shelf? That's my question.
When I was grabbing my stuff, getting prepared to leave, I was like, this dude is so
you grabbed the books after this started.
Yeah, I grabbed the books as I was.
So the books, the books are not possessed. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Did I read this and it all started?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Like,
No,
So
but I do
spiritual
believe that
protection over these
H.P.
books.
Lovecraft has something to do with this, and I don't fully understand the fundamentals of that, but I was reading his stories during this time, and I felt like it was deeply connected to it. Can't explain how, but I felt it. That's all I can say. I would read certain passages of the books, and then things would happen that would force me to stop reading, and some strange thing would happen. It's almost like reading the book was like casting spells that were like, you know how Hogwarts is like all the stairs that reconnect and stuff like that?
Mhm.
Well, imagine that, but it's not like things physically moving, but it's the fibers of reality of things that could happen moving.
Yeah, I think
that was being shifted around me from the stuff that I was reading.
I think maybe even, like if that's true, to go with what you're saying, like the fibers of reality were already shifting and brought you that book to reflect that too. Probably
100% possible. Yeah.
Just to indulge in that idea.
Yeah, I could have went through all of this because I was supposed. As a matter of fact, I already.
I think
that
so.
I was supposed.
Like if you were having ideas of shooting some racist, stepdad with his guns because he's a fucking piece of shit, what it seems. Well, I mean, it's a good thing that you got out that house. It happened for a reason, clearly.
Definitely.
100%. 100%.
Crazy. That's a weird experience for sure.
So to answer your story,
Unexplainable.
Yes.
or to answer your question, I'm sorry.
All right.
I've got a story myself, but I'm not going to share that one.
Yeah, we'll share that off camera, guys. Sorry.
Okay.
We're going to end this episode. It was fucking phenomenal. It was so fun hanging out with you, dude, again.
All right, Jordan.
Always a pleasure,
And
gentlemen.
we'll bring you back next time,
sir.
too.
Yes, for sure.